Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of this It Starts With You. And today, my handsome guest, Mr. Anderson. George, how are you today?
Hey Vic, I am very well, thank you. Enjoying the sunshine.
Isn't it glorious? Isn't it glorious? Um, Rather than me telling the viewers and listeners all about you, why don't you give us an introduction of who you are and what you do for the world as it is? And don't forget to just let us know what your personality type is as well.
Yeah, well, it's always been a challenging question I found to answer over the years. Way back over the last 20 years, I've been involved in well-being and fitness and health and performance. And when I was a personal trainer, which is what I used to do, it was very easy because I just say I'm a personal trainer, even though I was also doing other things. Now it's I find it a little harder because I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I do run online programs, but generally speaking, the area that I'm involved in is still very much the same. It's about well-being, it's about performance, what I try to do in the world is to try to inspire people and equip them with the information so that they can take action so that they can thrive more in their lives. We did the disc profile a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I am a reformer. And some of the elements of that absolutely resonated with me. In particular, the some some of the areas around kind of needing that social recognition and just kind of liking being around people and being charged up by their energy as well. So yeah, it was really kind of interesting getting those insights for sure.
Yeah, it is. And that's probably why we get on so well, because a reformer, to those that are listening, is the outgoing and people side of things. So very yellow. And it is that social recognition. And I think when we're with people who are polar opposite to us, if you're listening, you can't see, but me and George have both turned up in baby blue today. But if we're dealing with people who are blue that don't need that, sometimes we get a bit like, well, why don't you need that? But then they look at us and go, why do you need it? Just differences, isn't it? So when you say, I mean, personal training, obviously I follow you on social media, so I can see you are very much into your fitness. But you don't just talk about the fitness in the physical body, is it? You're talking about fitness internally and in your mindset. How how do you help someone that probably doesn't even know that they need it?
I think it starts with recognizing what the challenges are and the awareness. Because you're absolutely right. Some people who perhaps don't love the gym or running like in the same way that perhaps I do, or you do, because I know you're a big gym hound and endurance champion as well, with some of the things that you get into. But some people who don't love it like that, it feels like, well, why would I want to go and do that? They look at the thing being the focus instead of what the outcome of that thing is, the gym workouts or just going for walks and how much better it makes you feel. So, yeah, for a long time, I worked on physical fitness and, nutrition and sleep and so on and so forth as well. But what I found was that the people who were able to stick with their program and their commitments much better than others were the ones who also connected in what they were doing to the impact it had on how they felt. So if
Mm.
you are getting a good night's sleep and you're doing a bit of exercise, you're eating a reasonably healthy diet and you're hydrated and all the rest of those good things, you probably feel like you have the energy and it becomes a foundation for resilience, for mindset, for optimism, for your ability to thrive under pressured conditions as well. And a lot of the people who I work with, that is exactly how they operate. And so being able to do that is a real benefit. So actually focusing on the benefits rather than what do you need to do in order to get there? That seems to be the connecting piece that a lot of people often miss.
Yeah, and I get that. So people who, like you say, don't enjoy the gym or perhaps do enjoy running. I mean, I about run a bath. That's about as much running as I do. but it's, thinking, oh, well, I need to do this because I'm going to get fitter, as opposed to at the end of it, what's the benefit of doing that? So if we bring it into the workplace then, because you say that you work with a lot of leaders, don't you? Talk
Yeah.
about some of the challenges that they may have and how you can help overcome those.
One of the stories I hear from so many of the leaders and the leadership groups that I work with is the relentless pace of meetings and appointments and commitments through the day that actually stop them from doing their actual work. And so a lot of people will tell me that they spend all day in back-to-back meetings, often on Zoom or Teams, and some in person now, which is also great, but still can be quite draining for some people more than others. And then they don't get time to do their work during the day. So then that gets pushed to the back end of the day when they've maybe gone home, had some dinner, maybe spent a little bit of time with the family, and then they've got to switch back on their laptops and do another couple or 3 hours of work, especially if they're working across different time zones as well. And it just because somebody is capable of doing this doesn't mean that it's an optimal way of operating and that you're going to hit that peak performance. And it certainly isn't sustainable in an enjoyable and sort of flourishing kind of way. So that's often what people will relate to me as being the cadence of their life and the frustration, but can't see a way to cut in on that cycle.
Mm. So what I mean, obviously you have a whole program that you take people through, but if someone's sitting here thinking, well, yeah, that's absolutely my day, George. What are little steps that people can do or put in place to help them actually get those optimum energy levels?
I think leaders have not just an opportunity, but almost a responsibility to lead the way for the rest of their teams as well. And no matter what you say as a leader, people are always going to follow what you do. So if you're telling people to take breaks and to make sure you're managing your energy through the day, and then you're seen to not be doing that, then that is going to have it's conflicting there. So my advice is to be very kind of open and public about doing this and putting strong boundaries into place, creating meeting agendas to make sure that everybody who's on that call needs to be on that call. And actually, sometimes it's just simple things like this, or even starting a meeting 5 minutes past the hour instead of on the hour, that can just start to make the difference, even if it's just psychologically that you're taking control back. And in those 5 minutes that you've just won back there, you're not using that time to check your emails or to catch up with this or that. You're using it to just sit and breathe or to get outside for a couple of minutes, to move, to check in, to reset yourself. Because energy isn't just about the physical aspect. Yeah, that is important. But if you've ever sat down all day long and you've still got to the end of the day feeling completely exhausted, you know that it isn't just physical. It has got this emotional and mental elements to it as well. And it's really important, I think, to just take those moments through the day to just take pauses, even if you're not doing anything particularly physically active for you, positively for your well-being there. What you are doing is you're just creating that little blocker, that boundary, and that reset so that you can then go again and feel a little bit of an uplift in your energy.
Mm. When you say about starting meetings at 5 past, I had a client that did that. They start them at 5 past and end them at 5 to, so that everybody has a 10 minute. Because if you, because I like you say, since that horrible COVID thing that came a few years ago, so much is now on the like we are on Zoom recording
Yeah.
this, that actually we just like literally end meeting into the next. Whereas if you were physically in a building, you would know, okay, well, I've got my next meeting and that's on the next floor and it's in 10 minutes. You have to walk, therefore you are pushing energy through your body as you walk to that next space. So how can we what can we do to make it the norm that meetings start at 5 past and finish at 5 to? I don't should we just make that standard?
I think we should make it standard. That's how
That's
we do
it.
it.
Done.
It's simple as that. The queen of
You heard it
behavior
here
has
first.
spoken. Here we go.
But it is little things like that. Now, I one other thing that and it was from when I came to see you keynoting and talked about energy. One of the things I really used to suffer from, and then I kind of hit burnout, and then I thought, oh, I'm fine, is turning off notifications. So rather than me saying what you did, why don't you tell the audience what it is about notifications?
it's so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? To have your phone pinging and buzzing and glaring at you. And even if you don't respond to it because you're in the middle of something, just that diversion of your attention towards something else. It's that context switching. I think Cal Newport talks about this in his book, Deep Work. And it's this idea of you're working on something and then your attention goes somewhere else, and then to get back on track again to where you were, it can take a number of minutes. So first of all, you're ruining your focus and you're creating distraction instead of traction. But more than that, it's an energetic cost to that as well. If you're constantly thinking about something else in your mind and you're working to bring your mind back to this point here, we want to get into these flows, these workflows of deep work where you've got your notifications off, your phone or laptop with notifications. It's just nothing's coming in, and you can just get deep into whatever it is you're engrossing at, which can be energizing. And
Mm.
this is the great thing about work. Not all work will be like this, but there is some work that we can do that energizes us to get into it. But when we have notifications on, and there's obviously myriad other distractions as well, the notifications is something that we generally have a bit of control over. When that's on, it's very difficult to get into that flow state. We can get to the end of the day feeling like we've just been reacting to things, to incoming information, and it's so much kind of easier and just more fun when you don't have those interruptions moment by moment through the course of the day.
And I wonder whether, again, is this a COVID lockdown thing where we all wanted to be on social media more because it was our way of connecting to the outside world? But yet, when we were pre-COVID, when we were all in offices 5 days a week, because there wasn't really, I mean, you did a bit of work from home, but it wasn't like the work that we do now. If you were in a meeting at work, you wouldn't have sat with your phone with you looking. You might have said, I'm sorry, but I'm expecting an urgent call. Maybe you had a family crisis. But you wouldn't have sat there suddenly going, oh, look, LinkedIn's gone off for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter,
Yeah,
X, whatever you
yeah.
call it. You don't go like that. So what I found, I mean, I'm sure listeners, you've got WhatsApp groups that you're in that you have on mute because if they go off, suddenly the whole phone is just vibrating. Do the same to your social media. And even if you do it, so I think you challenged us in the audience to do it for 48 hours. And I did it for 48 hours. And I'm thinking, God, I think it was summer last year when I saw you do that. I've
Mm,
not turned them back on. And
brilliant.
do you know what? The release. So it's like, yeah, do you know what? When I go and make myself a cup of tea, I'm going to stand in the kitchen for 10 minutes and I might then go on and have a little flick. But I'm not doing it. I mean, this is all on Do Not Disturb while I record, but I don't have any distractions whilst I'm doing deep work.
It just makes a difference.
But
Um,
how do you get leaders to lead like that?
part of it is about examining the stories that they're telling themselves. So I
Okay.
often ask that question, like, what is it you're telling yourself? Not just about notifications, but about the way that you do things. Because usually these habits, we don't design them, we just default into them. So somewhere along the line, we've made usually a subconscious choice. We've gone down the path of least resistance, and then that has become our norm. That has become the way we do things. And whether that's meetings, or notifications or working through lunch. We just get into the habit, and that's just the way that we do things. So a big part of this is creating the awareness and deciding, well, what am I doing? Let me have a look at my habits. And if I was going to design this as a high performing leader or any high performing professional for that matter, you don't have to be leading a team in order to benefit from this. Would I design my systems, my lifestyle systems like that? And 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. And when you have that awareness, all of a sudden you can say, well, I don't have to overhaul everything, but what could I do that would make things a little bit better? And you just given a great example of switching off notifications. And you did it for 48 hours, as was the challenge. As soon as you say to someone, right, turn off your notifications and never turn them back on again, that's a lot, forever's a long time. But I can test that out for 48 hours because a part of that as well is just exploring how does it feel? What's it like? Do I get the urge? Do I feel like I'm missing out on something? And just to be aware of that. And then as you go through that cycle of 48 hours, you realize that those urges they've sort of disappeared and it's not such a big thing anymore. And you just get used to now not having notifications on, or you get used to taking a 20 minutes lunch break. I mean, gosh, how luxurious to take 20 minutes away from your desk and go for a walk. And it's worse when people are working from home. This is one of the most, for a lot of people, the most energy depleting environments that they can operate in is when they're working remotely, because now there's no culture of the office where other people are up and about. They're just there in front of their laptops and they will just be working or not working, but they're still in front of their laptops. And it's just having the discipline and the awareness that actually, if I take a break, if I move away from my laptop, if I get outside and get some fresh air, it's not a it's not a cost to my day in terms of time. It's an investment. It's an investment because you enhance the productivity and the performance that you get, the creativity that you're able to access, the ability to articulate your thoughts and your ideas with other people around you, to focus on what's right in front of you instead of being constantly distracted. That's the benefit from a performance perspective of investing in your well-being, investing in these systems of your life that will boost your energy and removing some of the unnecessary drains like notifications and switching on your phone the first thing in the morning before your eyes have even properly opened, scrolling through Instagram right at the end of the day, looking at how much better everybody else's life is compared to yours, and then switching off and wondering why you can't get a good night's sleep.
Mm.
You look at these systems and say, well, how can I redesign them that's going to make an improvement?
Yeah. So there's two things I was just scribbling there. So the first one is, let's say, do we just make the norm that meetings are 5 past start and finish at 5 to? Yeah, yeah.
I think
Vic
we've
and
already done
George
that.
said
Tick.
that.
There we go. By
Done.
decree,
We're taking that. It's
now
our
in law.
credit. But do you think it's more that we need a societal change of habits than just leaders in business change of habits?
It would help, but I think it's unrealistic to expect that. I think from a utopian, wonderful perspective, then yes, that would be great, wouldn't it? If the world woke up and thought, you know what, we don't need to have so much reliance on social media for connection. We want to disconnect and reconnect with nature and ourselves. That would be glorious to imagine that as a future reality. But for now, we have more control over that, but we have to create the awareness in the first place as to what we're having. You do this wonderfully with your profiling and when you're looking at helping people hold a mirror up to themselves and say, like, what do you see? What do you experience? How do people experience you? Because when you have that awareness, then you can be intentional about the actions that you take, not to crush yourself with the pressure of and expectations of perfection or transformation, but to gradually look at, well, how can I improve? How can I make this a bit better? Because I'll tell you what, Vicky, most people would agree that if they had just a bit more energy in the day, maybe in the afternoon specifically, wow, what a difference it would make to their lives. It doesn't have to be boundless energy all day long, every single day. That might be that utopia. That might be something that's just way out there in the distant future. But for now, what about getting a little bit more bouncing a step in the afternoon or improving your sleep just a little bit so that you wake up in the morning feeling not just energized, but motivated and excited for the day instead of dreading walking into those back-to-back meetings, which now don't happen because we've got 10 minutes slack in between them. So that's okay. That's that problem solved. But everything else,
But
small steps.
I mean, it's also getting people to realize, if you do get a sluggish point in your day, make a note of when it is. Because my sluggish point generally happens around 2:30 because I'm like Tigger when I wake up. Yeah, I'm up at 5 every day. I'm in the gym at 6. I'm a very annoying yellow personality first thing in the morning, which my husband has got used to. We've known each other 30 years now, so it's taken its time. But when I actually look at also, like, think of notifications and think of specifically our personality, so outgoing, peoply, love the recognition, love the praise. Do you think it's harder for outgoing people to switch off notifications than perhaps reserved people or task focused people?
I think it's easier for outgoing people perhaps to tell themselves the story that it's harder to do that. And the reason I say that is because we get such a boost from seeing something come up. It's the novelty, it's the dopamine hit that we get from, oh, I wonder what that could be. Or look, somebody's commented on my post. And we get this instant feedback that we're doing something right, we're making a difference, and we've got that visibility and worthiness. And I think when you recognize it for what it is, and you realize that you're being controlled by these neurochemicals and these psychological tendencies and characteristics, it puts you into a position to make a choice. And that choice is like, what do I value more right now? Is it my attention and energy, or is it the short term, short lived boost of energy, pseudo energy, and motivation and confidence and self esteem bolstering that you're going to get when you see that somebody's liked your latest LinkedIn post? And I think when you recognize that and you start creating the value in your mind, think, well, what is most important? It then becomes, in the moment, a conscious choice or more of a conscious choice. So I think it is harder, I think, but like I said, that's because the stories that we tell ourselves are that, I have to check because I don't want to
Mm.
miss anything. And it's important to make sure that you're responding to everybody's comments as soon as they leave something. And so we make things up in our heads as to why this is important. But the reality is we're doing ourselves a disservice by doing that. We're hampering and draining our energy and getting into this distraction rather than traction when we're trying
Mm.
to do something that's productive and worthwhile.
Yeah. And I hear you on that. And it took a while, but I think it was like you say, because you challenged us in the audience, turn notifications off for 48 hours only, was just like, I can do 48 hours.
Yeah,
I can do 48 hours. And then suddenly it was just like, well, that was really nice not to have to constantly go, there's a message, someone's
yeah,
commented,
isn't it?
someone's tagged me, and do that
Yeah,
yourself. Now, you also picked up about, and I think most humans fall into this. You get into bed, you plug your phone in. Perhaps it's because your alarm's on your phone. And I know I was absolutely the same. Now I don't. I think my phone goes to sleep at 8:30 p.m. It just goes into sleep mode. So even when I go to bed, I it's kind of I have to unlock it, if you like. But people who do that doom scrolling and then do the whole comparisonitis, look at isn't everyone else's life more than what does that do to mentally to our subconscious brain before we go to sleep?
well, I mean, first of all, it's the stimulation that you're getting that isn't in an ideal situation when you're trying to power down. In terms of the sleep cycle that you're moving into, or the cycle of the day, the energy and the hormones, you want to be boosting your melatonin, which is one of the sleep hormones, and that's primarily responsible for getting you into sleep in the first place. It doesn't do much for keeping you asleep, but it certainly gives you the driver to go to sleep. So if you're creating stress, which triggers the release of cortisol, that then suppresses melatonin. And that can then make you feel tired but wired because like you want to go to sleep, but you can't because these thoughts are now rushing around your head. And let's face it, we're generally less robust and resilient last thing during the day. Like at nighttime when we're going to sleep, that's what we're going to be ruminating or catastrophizing or thinking of all those mistakes we made in the day, the things we didn't get done. So it's not a great time anyway, psychologically. So we want to be minimizing the external noise, the disruption to that, because it's more than likely we're going to hook onto that and it's going to swim around in our brains and become bigger than it really is. I'm a big fan of practicing gratitude, as I think you are as well, or you've
I
done.
just wrote that down. Do
Yeah,
you
well, okay,
practice
where we go.
gratitude?
So I just think what a wonderful way to end the day. Just thinking about three things that you've been grateful for in the day. Jot them down and go back to those moments, relive them in your mind's eye. And not only do you get another dose of the all the happy hormones that you would have experienced in that moment that you were being grateful for, but it actually then starts to shift your perspective. So you notice more of these things when they're actually happening rather than just in retrospect at the end of the day as well. So that's my process, part of my routine or ritual. I have a routine in the morning, I have a ritual in the evening as well. It seems softer, doesn't it? Like ritual.
Yeah. What's your
Systems and
morning routine
processes,
then?
they're hardcore, but rituals are nice and
Yeah,
fun.
if your rituals are gratitudes in the evening at the end of the day, what's your morning routine?
Oh, so in the morning, I've played with all kinds of routines, and I found I need more sleep at the moment. So I tend to have a what is now a much shorter routine than it used to be, but it's still about half an hour or so. And it's just really important for me to have some time in the morning before everybody else gets up, where I can just do George things, and that's like I'll do some exercise, just literally set press ups. I'll do some mobility work, so kind of get it into my body physically. I'll drink a couple of glasses of water, and I'll then usually do either some very short stint of meditation, just kind of focusing, maybe visualizing my intentions for the day or some of the goals that I have, and then I'll do a little bit of journaling as well. And the journaling is fairly loose, like what's been on my mind. What am I worried about? What are my concerns? What am I excited about? What am I understanding about myself? 5 to 10 minutes of that as well in the morning is also really, for me, a really nice way to get into the day feeling intentional. Like I just dumped everything out on a piece of paper, and now I can clear the decks. Now I can get on with focus for the day.
And do you do that before? Because obviously I know you're, family man with kids at home as well. You do that before anybody's up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they get up around 7ish. So it's not too, I don't have to be up too early. So about quarter past, 20 past 6 is when
Okay.
I get up and go through my little morning routine and, let the dog out. And then at 7 o'clock, I'll generally get myself ready and I will go out then for a walk with the dog. So I try to do some kind of exercise in the morning. It might be a run, it might occasionally be a gym session, but actually I find I'm better and more energized later on in the day. So I've shifted my workout schedule as I'm in my mid 40s now. So as I think got into my 40s, I realized that I wasn't performing quite as well first thing in the morning in the gym. So I just shifted it, and I
Mm.
feel much better doing that. But I still can train in the morning if the urge takes me, which it occasionally does. But I think that's also important, Vicky, to mention. I used to have a really long morning routine. I mean, during COVID, I was doing about an hour and a half of stuff in the morning, like longer meditations and longer bouts of journaling, and it worked for me then. Beautiful sunny mornings. It was again, it was wonderful. But I instead of saying, right, this is what I will always now do,
Mm.
I listened to my body, and when I realized that I wasn't, what, I need more sleep now. That's what my body's needing. I just shortened that routine and prioritized my sleep. I think you just got to tune into what you need and be ready to evolve rather than saying this is what I do and this is what I will always do.
And I hear you on that because well, I'm now nearly mid 50s. But in my 20s, I would be exercising at the end of the day, like you're saying now. I would
Mm.
always be like, oh, I couldn't face it in the morning. Whereas now I've completely switched and I'm like, no, 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 I want it done. And then it helps me energize the daytime. I just want to go back here. So you talk about melatonin, and that is what helps us go to sleep. And obviously, if we activate cortisol, it suppresses it. Are there any routines, or is there, like a food or a something that people can do to raise that so that they get a better night's sleep? Because I think sleep is a massive thing that a lot of people are suffering from at the moment.
Yeah, it's like the meta habit. You dial your sleep in or just get a bit better with your sleep, better quantity and quality sleep. And it has a knock-on effect to all these other habits. It's easy to stick to your diet plan. It's easy to find the energy to go and exercise and to be more positive and productive in the day. So it is definitely something for people to focus on. In terms of kind of foods, I wouldn't say there's that many foods that will boost melatonin, but certainly the things that we can do. You can actually supplement with melatonin, but it's not something I'd recommend. And you absolutely would want to do that in line with a doctor's or physician's recommendations. However, some of the things you do want to watch for, first of all, screen time, having that power down routine, which is going to reduce the stimulation. Caffeine curfews as well. This is another one of my little personal rules for performance, and it's different for everybody. But I have a midday caffeine curfew and a maximum of 3 cups because I know if I go beyond that, I'll still get to sleep, but I will wake up in the morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I won't be able to get back to sleep. I know that has an impact on my sleep quality, so I take care of that. But other things like having the lights low in the evenings, that can really help as well. If you've got bright lights, especially overhead lights on, then that's going to have an impact of telling your brain that it's still daylight, it's still wake time, instead of the low level and dimmer yellowy lights in the evenings and having them around, which we generally do anywhere, I think. But if you're getting up in the night, or if you're, going to your bedroom to get ready for sleep, don't stick the big overhead lights on again, because it is going to send the signals to your brain that it's time to be awake rather than go to sleep. And then the final thing, and anybody who's familiar with the with Andrew Huberman and the Huberman Lab podcast, which is one of my favorite resources, is the idea of morning light as well. So getting out into the daylight for within the first 30 minutes, ideally, of waking up, of course, when the sun is up. And it doesn't have to be a sunny day, it could be overcast, but getting out into the daylight and just being, obviously don't look at the sun, but being in that environment, not looking through a window, but actually outside, can reset. It does reset your circadian clock. That's the part of the brain that's regulating this sleep wake cycle, including your cortisol and melatonin production. And if you just try to get outside, that's one of the reasons I walk the dog in the morning. It's not for her benefit, it's for mine. I need my walkies in the morning, because that's one of the things that then resets me, so which helps me sleep better, more deeply that night.
Oh, that's a great way to end on. But I'm just thinking, and I know my husband doesn't really listen to these, but he always does the dog walk in the morning. I might steal that off him. It might be my time.
Maybe this is your
Oh,
call to go for a run first thing in the
yeah,
morning
it
on your
is.
way to the gym, Vicky.
Oh, no, because it's down a very busy road, so I can't. George, this has been a fascinating conversation. Um, like most of my guests, I could talk for a lot longer, but that's just because I love talking. So, if people want to, actually, no. One tip then. What is your one thing that you would leave people who want to find a bit more energy in their day? What's your biggest one tip?
Well, beyond sleep, I would definitely say it's just creating awareness of what's happening now. If you're going to plot out your day and the hours of your day and your energy up the other axis, and like what's your energy like, and how well matched is it to the demands of that part of the day? Because once you do this little energy audit, you create greater awareness as to where in your day you are being impacted, what the consequences are. And then the solutions could be many. For you, there could be something. For somebody else, there might be something completely different. So it's rather than saying, well, here's a tip that works for everybody, apart from sleep, by the way, I will say that is absolutely something. Just create an awareness of what your energy is like through the course of a day, and what's the impact that's having, and what could you do that you already know how to do that would give you a bit of a boost.
Hmm. And on that energy audit, I think we shall wrap it up. I know all your contacts are going to be in the show notes here, George, but what's the quickest way if someone's listening to this and think, oh, I just want to grab hold of George?
If that was the case, then I would recommend contacting me via LinkedIn. Just head over to LinkedIn, find me, George Anderson, and happy to connect and continue the conversation over there. I have my own podcast, A Bit of a Boost, as well, which, Vicky, you have been a wonderful guest on in the past. And then my website is bygeorgeanderson.com.
Fabulous. George, it's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your energy.
Thank you, Vicky.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.